Alamse Queen Aisha Huang has been remanded into police custody after an Accra Circuit Court 9 refused to grant her bail. Aisha Huang is expected to appear in court on 27th September. Now, the judge denying the plea of the prosecutor said the nature of the case makes it difficult, citing Section 96(5) of the Constitution. You're having a conversation on the back of this. My colleague Eric Mawina Egbeta was in court. He followed keenly the conversations that went on in court. He has joined us in the studio to help us understand what really happened and the arguments that both the prosecution and the defense put out in court. Eric, thank you for your time with us on the program. Let's start off with the demeanor of Aisha when she appeared in court today.
Well, so I must say that the police were not very keen on allowing journalists film Aisha Huang and the three other persons who are currently standing trial. And so for the mode of operation which was adopted for her to get into the court, there was a decoy first of the other three suspects who didn't carry as much weight as Aisha Huang. They came up first, and then when the media's attention went there, then they sneaked her into the courtroom. But I wouldn't say thankfully, there were shots that were got of her still. But during the court proceedings, she was a bit downcast.
Okay.
And at a point where the judge was writing out his decision on the argument that had been put forth, whether or not to grant her bail,
or
you
otherwise.
could see for over a minute or so, she had her head down as she was standing in the dock and had her hands clasped together, seeking to say a prayer of some sort for well over a minute as proceedings were ongoing and the judge was seeking to put together the final details as to whether or not she was getting bail.
We'll get to the final details, but what were the arguments? First, let's start with the prosecution. What argument did he make?
Well, so for the prosecutor, that's Chief Inspector Frederick Sapong, he made the argument strongly that Aisha Huang be refused bail and that if allowed to go about as freely as they want, they could interfere with ongoing investigations. Now, he cites specific instances where they say that in 2017, she sneaked out of the country when investigations were ongoing, and as such, a person of such a character cannot be granted bail. Now, the defense team of Aisha Huang, led by Counsel Efadata, he made a rather startling argument in court today where he sought to suggest that the case as it is has been blown out of proportion by the media. And he makes the case strongly that the two charges that have been proffered against Aisha Huang and her colleagues, that's mining without a license and dealing in minerals without a license, they're two small charges. Based on all of the noise and the clamor that has come up in the last few weeks, he thought that charges would have been a lot graver than we're seeing, but that's not the case. And he expressed surprise at the fact that after 2 weeks of remand and being in the BNI custody, the police still is unable to adduce evidence enough to be able to carry the case forward.
And what was the position of the judge after he heard these two arguments? Well,
the judge cited Section 96(5) of the Act's guiding all of this and made the case strongly that this case as it is has attained some proportion in terms of persons being interested. He makes the case that all Ghanaians are interested. Even the animals in the forest are involved. He cited that, to be very specific, and that based on all of that, it is difficult to be able to grant the accused person's bail. And so they remanded again 2 weeks and to reappear on the 27th of September.
But what did counsel for the accused, Aisha Huang, mean by saying that the charges are small charges?
Well, simply on the argument that they've been remanded for 2 weeks, expecting that things will proceed from there, because he cites the example in 2018 during the court proceeding that prior to the deportation, or now we're getting to know is a repatriation of Aisha Huang, they were ready to open their defense back then. And they weren't given the opportunity to be able to do so. All they were told at one point in time was that the Attorney General had entered a nolle prosequi, and even when they were flown out of the country, they as counsel were not told. They were only told that they had invited the two into police custody for questioning and the likes, and subsequently they were told they'd been flown out of the country. And so the police doesn't have enough evidence to be able to proceed with the case, and they're just going about wasting the time of the
Eric, you know,
persons.
I mean, this case generated a lot of conversation. As you mentioned, the judge also said the animals in the forest are also interested in this. Who and who was in court today?
So lots of journalists, obviously, who were keen on proceedings in the courtroom. And then there were the prosecution team, and then as well the defense lawyers of Aisha Huang. And then Aisha Huang and 3 others who were present in court, 3 other Chinese nationals. But I need to mention that there was some interesting development during the court proceedings. At one point in time, one of the accused person, the other female who was also standing in the dock, went unconscious. She collapsed. Initially, she wanted to sit on the floor. The judge asked that water be brought to her so that she can be able to drink some water. That came in, but it appears it didn't help much, and so she had to be taken out of the courtroom and rushed to a clinic.
Right, Eric, we'll get back to you, but thank you so much for the details you've brought to us. Let's bring you the story now. We'll go back to the conversation on Aisha Huang shortly. But former President John Dramani Mahama has reechoed his view that President Akufo-Addo should have resigned by now, as the fight against galamsey has not been won. The president had pledged to put his presidency on the line in the fight against illegal mining.
I do think that anybody who's engaged in illegality must be sanctioned. I mean, Ghanaians who are engaged in illegal mining are languishing in prisons. They've been sentenced and jailed. And so Ghanaians felt cheated when she was, accused of illegal mining. And instead of prosecuting her, she was made to go scot-free. You remember what happened with Osafumafo's statement that they did not want to risk the relationship between Ghana and China, and that's why they let her go. When I was president, we value the relations with China, but if you're Ghanaian and you go to China and you're engaged in illegality, they don't say because of the good relations they have with Ghana, they're going to let you go scot-free. You face the full rigors of the law in China. When I became president, I was faced with this same illegal gold mining. I deported almost 5,000 illegal Chinese miners. I didn't say because of the good relations we have with China, we should allow them to continue to engage in this illicit activity. And we collaborated with the Chinese embassy. They got 747s and came and took their nationals away. It didn't destroy our relationship, no.
The president pledged, in fact, he's put his presidency on the line to fight illegal mining after he was sworn in. Yeah. Has this fight been won?
No, it hasn't. Indeed, if we were in some other jurisdiction, he would have resigned by now. By his word, he put his presidency on the line. Because now his own people have been found to be the ones engaged. All their party executives have, concessions and are doing illegal mining in forest reserves. It's a pity.
So you heard the former president, John Dramani Mahama, speaking there. Still having the studio with me, Eric Mawina Egbeta, who was in court today following up on the case against Aisha Huang. We understand that she has been denied bail and has been remanded into police custody. Eric, so that was the former president speaking, but we were talking about the situation that another accused person fell unconscious. Let's wrap up with that.
Yeah, so like an accused person, 4 with Aisha Huang inclusive. The other lady who was also standing in the dock.
So for the records, that was no Aisha Huang? That
wasn't Aisha Huang. She began to develop palpitations of some sort and was in urgent need of some attention.
Initially, was that before the judgment or?
Before.
Okay.
So when the magistrate was writing his ruling, that's when this happened. And so the judge requested that water be brought in. They rushed quickly, brought in water, and seeking to see whether or not the situation improves. It didn't improve, and she had to be carried in the arms of the police officers and put in a vehicle and rushed to a clinic pretty quickly to be able to get medical attention.
So Aisha Huang has been remanded. When is she reappearing?
They are expected in court again on the 27th of September of this month. That means they've been remanded for 2 more weeks. And that's what's happening.
So we understand if that the counsel for the accused, he he addressed the media after proceedings. Let's now take a listen to what lawyer Ifadate said.
Is that the media has overhyped this small matter of mining without license and doing mineral sales without license. It's a small matter. It happens every day in Ghana. So I don't see why the media should even write an editorial on this matter. And it is that which is creating a problem and giving all manner of insecurity to the issue.
But you have engaged there. Do you have a sense of how she got into the country?
I don't know how she entered Ghana, but I don't want to say that I want to indict Ghana Immigration Service, because any foreigner who comes to Ghana passes through our borders, and each of our borders are manned 24 hours by immigration officers. So immigration cannot tell me that they don't know how she entered Ghana.